Good morning and welcome, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on how to really plan for your business. And I think it's such an important topic. I mean, not a new topic, but such an important topic for business owners to have an idea of, where our business is going and what direction we're going in. I find that, often we try and avoid the planning process in our business. And I don't think it's a good thing, actually. When you first get your business up and running, maybe many of you, when you first got your business up and running, some of you were told you needed to create a business plan, and you found it quite a lot of work, in the sense that somebody told you you should be doing this, and then you decided to or not do it. And the thing I find is that when we're told that we should be doing it, I'm not sure it's always the best way to go. When we're doing it out of our own will, when we decide, this is what I need to do to grow my business over the next year or 2 or 5 years, then I think that's a better attitude. So that's what that's what I'm trying to get across. For those of you that haven't met me before, my name is Andrew Patricio. And I've always been a business owner, but for the last 25 years, I've been educating, training, and trying to inspire business owners to build successful businesses. And it's really interesting when you work with business owners on a daily basis. It's really inspiring, first of all, but you learn a whole lot of things from them, especially the successful ones. Obviously, you also learn from the failures and sometimes learn more from the failures, but you learn a whole lot of things when you're interacting and working with business owners all day. I've also been involved in quite a few startups myself, and have learned the importance of, planning the process, going through, planning in your business. So very, very often I get asked, so what does it take to become a successful business owner? And I specifically put the word in this changed economy there, because I think over the last 3 or 5 years, there's been a lot of change in every single person's industry. It doesn't matter what you're doing, your industry's changed. For some of you, you work a little bit more remotely. For others, you have employees that come in 2-3 days a week, and others that don't. For others, there's been more flexibility, and obviously COVID had a big impact on that. For those of you that are involved in retail, some of the changes that have taken place are things like inflation, which we haven't had for many years, that we have now. Also, our employees struggling to get employees to work for us after COVID, and all these different unique challenges that we are going through now that many of us haven't had to deal with in quite a few years, which creates a bit of anxiety, but also an opportunity. And I think every single change that takes place in our industry, in our economy, in our environment opens up new opportunities. And that's the way we're going to be thinking about it. So what do I think takes to become a successful business owner? And these are some of my thoughts. And again, I don't think anyone can say, well, it's the same for everyone. But this has been a general trend over the years that the most successful business owners that I've worked with have a very clear idea of what their goals are. They're very, very clear on specifically what they want to achieve. And I think this really helps because it's almost like a mindset. When you decide, if you start the new year or the new quarter or the new whatever it is, the new season, and you decide, these are the things that I'm going to do, I think they inspire, they motivate you, and they keep you on track. So I would encourage all of you to do this. Often what happens with a lot of us, we'll start off the new year with New Year's resolutions of how we're going to change things. And then we get to now, which is 6 weeks into the new year, and a whole lot of things, those things have fallen by the wayside. So I would encourage you to relook at your goals and, maybe establish new ones that'll keep you focused on what you want to achieve. The next thing I find, which I'm going to discuss in quite a bit of detail today, and on Thursday, when we have the mastermind, is planning. You know, I think planning really helps you. I like planning, and maybe that's why I say that, but I really like planning. You know, even yesterday morning, before I started my day, I wrote down a bunch of things that I want to achieve. And then when I get to the end of the day, it's almost like this sense of achievement. These are the 10 things I wanted to do. These are the things that I did. And so planning helps you through that process. I also think planning helps save you a lot of time. It helps save you a lot of money. And one important, really important thing that I think planning helps you with is remove that chaos that we sometimes have in small business, you know, because there's so much going on. We've got so many different things that we're responsible for that create chaos in our lives that we need to deal with. The third thing, and I mentioned this yesterday in a post that I've posted on LinkedIn, that I think one of the things that makes successful business owners is this not wanting to ever give up. And I think it's a really important thing. You know, I will often say to business owners in my seminars and workshops that, you know, building a business is really, really hard. And I think that at times you are going to want to give up. There's no doubt in my mind that every single business owner, doesn't matter how experienced they are, doesn't matter how smart they are, doesn't matter how many times they've done it, you'll go through stages where you want to give up. And I think those of us that eventually become successful business owners are the ones that just keep going. You know, all these different situations that we go through, all these challenges that we go through, and we just keep going. And I think it's really, really important that you understand this. Firstly, that building a business is difficult, even though some of us make it sound like it's quite rosy. You know, people will ask about, and we focus on the positive things rather than just the negative things. And I think the media also has a role to play where they make out that, you know, running a business is the greatest thing ever, that you work and then you make money and then you succeed. And some of my worst headings are in the media is, I only work 3 hours a day and I'll make $20,000. Well, those things really frustrate me because they make it just sound so easy. You know, all you do is put a bit of effort in, you do a bit of this, you do a bit of that, and you become a successful retailer or a successful business owner or whatever. And I think you're just got to be very, very careful of that and understand that it's hard. It's hard for all of us, you know. And I think the thing that keeps us on track, or the thing that keeps me on track, is the stubbornness, you know, this believing in my vision, believing in my idea, believing in my concept, and not giving up. And I often reflect on this because towards the end of last year, I did a walk in the north of Spain with 5 other business owners. Yeah, 5 other business owners. And it was really interesting that we had this discussion because I've known these people for my whole life. And it was really interesting, you know, as we were going through it, a lot of time together, 7 days spent walking, and how we discussed some of the challenges that we had through the years as business owners. And then the relief that now at this stage of our lives, we could enjoy the fruits of our labor. So I'm here to tell you that it doesn't matter what your business is, it's almost like in the early stages, it's pain for long-term gain. And I think for every single business owner, we go through that. So it's very important that we have very clear goals that keep us focused, that we plan for success, and that we persevere. I think these things are so important in building a successful business. Even if you have the best idea in the world, and I've seen this many times with people with great ideas, great concepts, but they just don't do it. And often they'll come up with excuses and why they didn't do it. And I think those of us that take the risk and try really hard have the potential to succeed. Is there any guarantee? Absolutely not. The other thing that I've realized over the years very, very often is that, you know, the most successful business owners fail regularly. So I want you to understand that failure is part of the equation. Failure is part of being a business owner. And some of the best things that happen to you as a business owner, or the best learnings, come from failure. And I've seen this so many times. I don't like it going through it. And even when I speak to business owners, I always say, you know what, there'll be a silver lining. And they say, geez, I don't know about that. But many scenarios, many situations that you go through as a business owner make you a better business owner. If things are easy, you know, I don't think you become a better business owner. I often say this, even when it comes to economies. You know, the economy's been doing really, really well for the last 5 years, the last 10 years. So even if you weren't the best business owner in the world, you would survive. And now these last 3-4 years, say last 3 years, have been really, really challenging for a lot of business owners in terms of getting customers, in terms of scaling and growing, in terms of their mental health. All of these things have been things that we've had to deal with that we haven't had to deal with before. And I think that willingness to try things, that willingness to learn, that willingness to fail sometimes, I think is really, really good. And I'm sure you've heard people saying things like this, that, you know what, there's no failure, there's just learning. And I think there's a lot of truth in that, is that when we struggle with something, when we fail at something, often we come out better on the other side. Not when we're going through it, but afterwards in hindsight, which is always really good. You know, one of the things that I've been reflecting on, especially over the last few months that I've been traveling quite a lot, is what is it that customers want? So if you're a retailer, you know, what are the things that are going to give you the edge in your business going forward? And some of these things are very, very simple, but I think, you know, when economies are, I don't want to say struggling, because I don't feel the economy is struggling yet, but when economies are going through difficult times and your consumer is going through difficult times, because there's no doubt in my mind that the consumer is going through difficult times. You know, she's probably paying more for different things that she was paying less for 6 months ago. Her mortgage, her food, all of these things have had an impact on the household. So as a business owner, you need to understand this and try and address it. But one thing we become, I think, when we have less money, is we become more critical. I think we become more demanding. We become more, we discriminate more against businesses that don't do things well. But the basics of, I think, building a successful business going forward are that you need to make sure that your business is unique and special. And I want you to understand this. These are the things that differentiate you. You know, one of the exercises I do whenever I'm working with groups in different cities, I was last week running a workshop. And one of the things I like asking business owners is, in your city or in your area, in your town, in your region, what business are you really impressed with? What business does something that is unique, that does something that is different, that does special, that does something special? And then some of them will come up with similar, it's very interesting, they'll come up with similar brands or similar names. And then we'll discuss why these things are different. And it's usually just little things, just little things that make the difference. I, for example, like good coffee shops. And it's really interesting when the difference between an average coffee shop and a really good coffee shop is not that much difference. But you notice it. You notice it in the service levels. You notice it in the presentation. You notice it in how the people are behind the counter. All of these type of things you want to identify. And I would, if I was you, is look at your business from the customer's point of view and understand what makes us unique, what makes us different, what makes us special. And if there's nothing, well, you're going to struggle. I really think you're going to struggle over the next 3 years because customers are looking for different. Customers are looking for unique. The other thing we got to do and this is something that I think small businesses can do better than anybody else, is focus on the customer. And we need to be honest and authentic. One of the things that I realize more and more in business is that large corporations, I don't want to say lie, but really they just keep lying. They do things because they're really big. And I think the advantage we have as small business is we can be honest, we can be authentic, we can be real, we can be local, we can be all of those type of things. And I want you to understand that that's a competitive advantage. And then the final thing that I think differentiates businesses is when I go into a business and I walk out of there and I just feel different. And I think that is important. I had an example actually last week, Sunday, I went to a restaurant, just a simple restaurant, nothing too fancy. It was near the sea. I walked into this restaurant and just everything just worked. We sat down, the people were friendly. They asked us what we wanted. They served us efficiently. And I was saying, at the time I was with my brother, and I was saying to him, the difference between an ordinary restaurant and an extraordinary restaurant is just very subtle. It's little things that they do right. But I walked out of that restaurant thinking that was a great dining experience. The food was good, the service was good, the ambience was good. All of those things gave me this wow factor. And I want you to understand that I've got to get that when I go into your business. And the other thing which has become a really bit of a problem for me lately is every now and then I will try and buy stuff online. Like I'll book flights online, I'll book cars online, things like that. And I realize that the experience is not always what it should be. And as a small business owner, you've got to be very, very careful of this because more and more your customers are looking for different ways to buy from you. Some of them will come into your store. Some of them will buy on your website. Some of them will order on your website and come and pick up. All these new, I don't want to say innovations, but these new way of buying, you need to make this process painless. And if you don't make it painless, you've got a problem. And it's little things. I was, for example, Rockport, or some of the shoes that I used, and Rockport's a big company. And I promise you, I went onto their website when I was traveling, and I really struggled to make a purchase there because the way their website was designed. And you've just got to be very, very careful of that sometimes you're losing business just because of little things on your e-commerce that's not working properly. And I've been really surprised, especially when I travel, of how bad some of these e-commerce sites are. So if you've got an e-commerce portion to your business, just make sure that it's easy to make purchasing decisions on there. And what should we be doing over the next few years if we want to survive? Is we need to be innovative. We need to try different things. You're going to make mistakes. I think this is really, really important. But I think the key is to learn. I'm always surprised, actually, when one business owner I'm thinking about specifically is in his 80s now, and was reasonably successful, and it's really interesting that recently he shared a photograph on social media of him when he was in his early 20s. And already at that stage, he was educating himself. He was reading books about setting goals and things like that. And the one thing I've learned about business owners is the ones that are successful don't believe they know everything. They're always trying to learn. So they're either going to conferences, they're reading, they're going to seminars and things like that. And I encourage you to keep learning. But here's the key thing. Reading a book or attending a seminar or workshop or whatever it is really useful, but only if you implement what you learn on the program. Because if you don't implement, it's an absolute waste of time. So I think now's a really good time as a business owner to try and learn more, to try and improve, to try and do the things that you need to do to succeed. So let me go back to planning, because some of you might be thinking, now where does the planning part come into this whole webinar today? I think you've got to understand that for plans to be effective, I think what I've discussed is really important, because you'll realize very, very quickly that plans change. Plans change on a regular basis, and you need to be prepared for that. So you're not going to create a plan and then just leave it, and then things will turn out like you want them to do. And some of you can relate to this. When you first started your business, some of you created a business plan, and then you submitted it, say, to the bank or one of these development organizations, and they gave you the money, and then you got your business up and running, and nothing that you wrote in this business plan happened, or things happened quite differently to what you expected. And that was my experience. Even when I started this business, even though I created a business plan, what happened was quite different to what I wrote in the plan. So how did the business plan help me? And I think this is the key. The key that the business plan helps you is give you the confidence to move forward. And I want you to understand that. The advantage you have, if you're an established business compared to a startup, is in a startup, you don't have much information. You are guessing a lot of things. When you're established, you have the advantage. You have history, a sales history, you have marketing history, you have financial history, you have all of this information that's available to you that makes the planning process easier and more accurate, in my opinion, because now you've got information. So things that all of us have to do on an ongoing basis is update our business vision. So when you start a business, you have this idea of what you're going to create. And for some of you, that vision gets bigger. And for some of you, it gets smaller. And for some of you, it just changes totally. I know, for example, when I first started this current business, BizLaunch, the plan that I had, the business plan that I had, and what actually happened changed very drastically the first 3 years. Eventually, it stabilized, but it changed drastically. And what happened was it forced me to change my business vision. And I think all of us as business owners are at that stage now. We're almost at this tipping point. We've come through this crisis. We're now ready to grow our businesses, because I don't feel, I don't know about you, but I don't feel things are back to normal yet. I'm always waiting for this back to normal thing. I don't know what back to normal means, but I've been reading recently, that in March and April, more government employees are going to go back to work and things like that. And I'm thinking, geez, that's still a while. When does this normal, or what is this new normal? Or is there a new normal? I don't know the answer to that question. And I think if you understand this, this even makes it more relevant to you to adapt and change your business vision. For some of us, our whole business models have changed over the last 3 years. I know, for example, in the case of our business, we're doing much more online stuff. I love the offline stuff more. I must be honest with you. I thought I would not do offline stuff again once we started doing so much online stuff. But I've realized as a business trainer and somebody that works with entrepreneurs, that this could be one of my competitive edges going forward, is that where everybody's moved on to running webinars and things, which are wonderful ways of educating business owners, it's not the only way. There's other options which I think could be a competitive advantage. And you've got to think the same thing through as your business. Is your business model the same as it was last year, the year before, 2 years ago? And if the answer is yes, well, that's fine. But if the answer is no, you need to adapt accordingly. Why did I put update your business vision twice on the slide? Anyway, it doesn't matter. The other thing you want to do is set specific business goals, and then you want to create a plan to achieve your vision. So let's say you decide, what, I want to become the #1 retailer of ice cream in my main street. That is your vision. Then you got to start working on the plan. What are the practical steps that you're going to take to achieve that? And I think that is something that I want to spend some time doing today, is being very, very clear as a business owner of what are the things that you need to do. One of the things that I like doing with every single business owner that I work with is trying to get out of their head exactly what they want to create. Because one of the things that I've realized, just about every business owner that I meet has different priorities. They have different goals. They have different things that they want. So I might want to change the world, or I may want to do something that is totally unique, different, or special, but other people may not want to do that. And I think you need to decide this as a business owner. I remember when I was a retailer, I really enjoyed retail. But one of the things that I realized, other retailers want to do scale. They want to open more stores. And obviously, this was my circle of retailers. And your situation may be different. And my goal was never that. My goal was to become the best at what we did in these 700 square meters that we had. That was my goal. And I want you to understand there's no wrong or right. You have got to decide based on your risk tolerance, based on your family situation, based on, I don't know, your skills and knowledge. All of these things influence your vision for your future. But I think it's a very, very powerful thing, because once you decide, then you can start creating a plan to achieve that vision. So this is the vision. I want to become the top ice cream retailer in my main street. What are the steps that I need to take? But that's the vision. And it's really important that you work on this. Actually, if you come to my webinars regularly, you'll hear me regularly speaking about vision, because I realize the impact it has on the success or failure of many of the business owners that I've met. I'm, for example, next week, Friday, I'm going to a workshop and a presentation of a business owner that I attended one of my training programs. I run 5-day and 5-week training programs on how to build a successful business. And she was one of the attendees. And from the first time I met this young woman, I knew that she was different. I knew she was going to become successful. And the reason I knew was there were a couple of things. One was her energy, one was her drive. And I think the other thing was she knew what she wanted. She had a very clear idea of what she wanted to create. And as somebody that consults and works with business owners regularly, it's very encouraging and very inspiring when you've got somebody that is clear on what they want to achieve, and more importantly, prepared to put in the work, because having a clear vision is the easy part. Doing the work is one of the most important things. So your starting point when it comes to your vision is, what will my business look like in 5 years' time? Where will it be operating? And just remember, every year this changes. Well, I think it changes. For me as a business owner, every year, some of my priorities change. Sometimes I want to grow. Sometimes I don't want to grow. Sometimes I want to focus on certain revenue sources. Other times I don't want to. Depends on the nature of your business, which direction you're going to go in. And again, I mentioned this many times over the last few months in my webinars, is all of a sudden, we also have these new dynamics that have changed the way we do business. For example, we've got inflation and we've got higher interest rates. If anybody was listening this morning, the market was expecting the inflation to drop to 6.4, and it came out at 6.5. And some of you may say, well, that's not much difference. But when you're an investor, it is quite a difference. Also, the interest rates are very, very high. A lot of different things that are happening. The property market is struggling a little bit. The commercial real estate is struggling a little bit. All of these things are things that have changed in the last 6 months that have an impact on your business. So your growth strategy may have changed, or maybe not. So you've got to look at it. So in 5 years' time, what will your business look like? Where will it operate? How many people will it employ? Are you one of these people that want to employ people, or are you one of these people that don't want to employ people? For me, I've always wanted to run a small business, less than 10 employees. That's always been my dream. But for other people, I can see that they want to employ lots of people. I know business owners that employ 30 people, others that employ 60 people. I know somebody that employs 120 people, and I know somebody that employs 300 people. I mean, just the thought of employing so many people keeps me up at night. But again, it depends on you. It depends on you as a business owner. Maybe you've realized as a retailer, this is something you like, and you want to grow, you want to expand, you want to do all those things. And the next thing you want to think about is who will be your clients, because I think that gives you a bit of focus. We want to sell to premium customers that spend over $1,000 a month on whatever it is, These are the type of things you want to be doing. And I've mentioned this a few times, but I think every one of us need to do this every year, is be very, very clear on what our goals are for the next 12 months. And hopefully you did this at the end of last year. And if you didn't, it's okay. You know, there's no like punishment yet because you didn't set goals at the end of last year, but I'd encourage you to do it now. I'd encourage you to sit down now and say, what do I want to achieve over the next 12 months? And you go through every single section of your business, you know, your marketing, your sales, your revenue, all of these things. And then what you want to do is set 5-year goals, because, you know, sometimes I think as a business owner it's more fun setting 5-year goals, because if you're struggling now as a business owner, the thing that keeps you going is the future. I know when I was some of my earlier businesses, that was what used to keep me going. I knew I was struggling at the moment, but I knew that if I kept doing what I was doing, eventually I would see some light at the end of the tunnel. So I think both things are important: your short-term, your 12-month goals, and your long-term, your 5-year goals. And then what I encourage you to do is to update these every 90 days. And what will you put into your every 90-day goals is the areas you're going to focus on, how you're going to measure success, or maybe create a couple of benchmarks for yourself that you can work with. What are your actionable steps that you need to take? So these are the areas I'm going to focus on. These are the results I want to achieve. And what are the steps that I need to take to achieve those? And I think if you create a bit of structure for yourself like this, it's going to be really, really helpful. And I want you to understand that this process is not complicated. It's a matter of taking out a pen and paper or a whiteboard and thinking these things through. So if you're working with a whiteboard, you start off at the top. What are the areas I want to focus on over the next 90 days? Maybe getting more traffic to my website, or maybe getting more traffic coming through the front door of my store. Maybe it's improving our merchandising. Maybe it's improving our margins, whatever it is. But the more specific you are, the better it is. And I encourage you to use a pen and paper, you know, because then you can write down a whole lot of things and then, you know, refine your plan as you go along. Because the key, I think, is that you want to determine what you want to achieve, and then you want to create a simple plan. I remember when I first started this business 20 years ago, I created a long business plan. You know, one of these documents that you get a template off the internet and you download it, and then asks you a whole lot of things about your business, about your vision, about your management, about your legal requirements, and all of those things. And that was really useful. But as my business has grown and scaled, I've realized, and working with business owners on a regular basis, I realized that we actually need something simpler. We need something simpler that we can update on a regular basis. And we actually need a template, because I find that what happens with most of us is when we don't have a template, people will say things like this. They'll say to me, well, where do I start? And the most obvious answer is at the beginning. But people like a bit of structure. And this is why I eventually decided that, you know what, maybe I should create my own business plan template. Because there's a lot out there. I must be honest, there's some really good ones. This morning, somebody was speaking about Lean Canvas, and there's a whole lot of different ones out there, and they're all valid. I mean, they're all good. Some a little bit more tech focused than others, but I think they're really good because in the sense that they ask you questions that you need to answer, or they prompt certain prompts that you need to answer that help you create a plan. And this is why I created this template. And let me just say something to you. There's no perfect template. You know, I look at other people's templates and I think, you know what, I like it, but, and I think that's just absolutely normal. But what I'm encouraging you to do, whether it's mine, whether it's some other templates available, or maybe you've created one of your own, I think it's a really good idea to have some type of structure and then to go through the process. So let's start off with at the beginning. So one of the first things you want to try and identify as a growing business owner is, what are the opportunities for growth in my business? You know, you want to start at the beginning. So what are the opportunities for growth in my business. And only you know this. But I think it's also a state of mind, that you start, speaking to everybody. You start speaking to your customers, you start speaking to employees, you start speaking to your suppliers. And the objective here is to identify opportunities going forward. Corey's just asked me, can you get this template? Absolutely. I'll send it through to Chris, and then you can get it from him, or you can just email me. But one of the first things you want to try and do, and I've seen this many times in my business, is situations come up, and I don't know if the word problem is the right one. I think opportunities is a better one, but situations come up. And when situations come up, as a business owner, you are forced to adapt. I know one of the examples that I can think of at the moment is online learning content. So we created a lot of online learning content over the last 5 years. And the reason is very, very simple. One of our clients that trusted us or trusted BizLaunch came to me and said to me, Andrew, we're trying to create an online learning program. We've tried to outsource this, and it's very expensive and it's very complicated. Can you do it? And that took our business in a different direction. We still do the same stuff we've always done, but now we've got this extra source of revenue that we didn't have before. And that's the way I want you to think about it, And if you're in retail, the same thing is going to happen. Your customers are coming to your store and they're going to say, have you thought of selling prepared foods? Or have you thought of selling this? Or have you thought of selling that? Or your suppliers will come to you. Or your employees will say to you, customers have been asking for this. And that's the way I want you to think about it, because it's not complicated. For some of you, it'll be just 2 or 3 lines. Customers have asked for more baked goods, or customers have asked for, and I'm thinking, stores that sell baked goods and things like that. But it's trying to identify the opportunities. I've realized over the years is that's how our business grows. That's how we go in different directions. It's usually when usually a customer comes to you and says to you, can you do this for me? And then you either do it or not. But I want you to think of it as part of your culture, as part of the way you do things. So every year, what you want to do is you want to start off the year by thinking about what are the opportunities, what are the problems we've identified in our industry that are growth opportunities for us. Okay, so that's what you want to be thinking. The second thing you want to think about is what's the solution, or what product or service you're going to say. So in my case, for example, when the customer came to us and said, they want to create online learning content, the product that we came up with was a program, a learning program that we were going to record using video and things like that. And I want you to think about the same thing. If you, for example, on a main street, and you've identified an opportunity, for example, to add an oven to your store. And for those of you that have been to my webinars before, you know that I like baking. And the reason I like baking is because the margins are so good. I really like the profit margins in the baking industry. So there's an example of the opportunity, or the problem was, actually, this is quite a good one, is let's say one of your challenges is you're not making enough gross profit in your business. So the opportunity, or the new product or service you're going to introduce, is you're going to start baking, cinnamon buns. That's one of the things that are very profitable. So there was the problem. The problem was your profit margins were too low. The solution was to introduce a bakery. And I want you to think about it like that in your business. Doesn't matter whether you sell a product or a service, because sometimes we get caught up in the idea. I'm discussing bakeries here, but it could be a restaurant, could be a gift shop, could be a local spa, could be a nail salon, could be any of those things. Don't get caught up in the product, get caught up in the concept, or the idea is your profit margins in your business are not high enough. You identify a new product or service that's going to help you grow that. And you want to think about this regularly. So you want to think about it once a year, and then every 90 days, you want to try and identify, or maybe even more often, you want to try and identify other products or services. Just be very, very careful. This is something you're going to be very careful of. Just because customers say, we want this product, we want the service, you don't want to just launch those things. What you want to do is you almost want to test it. And one of the ways you test it is by maybe running a special promotion or whatever. And some of you have seen this maybe with fast food groups. You know, let's think of McDonald's. Every now and then they'll introduce a new burger and they'll only test it. They'll say for a limited time, we're going to have this new burger. They test it. If it works, they then launch it. And I want you to think about the same thing is before you spend all this money, there are two things you need to do. You need to speak to your potential customers. Will they buy it, or your existing customers? That's the first thing you want to do. And the second thing you want to do is you want to calculate the break even. How many of these things, the service, this product, whatever it is, do I need to sell that will justify me launching this product? Because that's the problem sometimes, is that your customers or somebody will approach you to sell a new product or service, but the problem is the volumes that you need to create just don't make any sense. And these are the decisions you need to make as a business owner, and you want to make them with numbers available to you, not just hoping by some divine intervention it's going to work. The next part of your planning process is your value proposition. Earlier on, I said to you that retailers or any businesses, when you go in and out of them, you want to walk out of there and you want to say, wow. And usually it's because they do something different. They do something that's different. They do something unique. That's something special. So I want you to think about your existing business. You know, if I had to buy a product or service from your existing business, what differentiates you from your competitors? Is there anything you can say that differentiates you from your competitors? And if the answer is no, you've got a problem. You've really got a problem, because you're going to struggle to become profitable if you cannot differentiate yourself. Because the most successful business owners out there, or the most successful businesses, are people that differentiate themselves. They're a little bit different. So what that enables you to do is to not compete only on price. You don't want to compete only on price, because what happens is new competitors will come into the market and they will take your business away. So you want to try and find something that is different. Actually, ice cream stores are a very good example. You know, I've been to some, I'm not really a buyer of ice cream. You know, sometimes I'll walk into a store and just the prices shock me. But I've seen some beautiful ice cream stores. I think of, for example, in Prince Edward Island on the East Coast, there's Cows, which also has a store, I believe, in Niagara Falls. And you walk into the store and it just feels different. It just feels special. The merchandising, the range of ice creams, the service, all of those things. Those are the things that I want you to identify. And sometimes you can't always put your finger on it. But when you walk into a store, you get that feeling. You know, are your customers coming into your store and getting that feeling? If the answer is no, if your retail is boring, you have a problem. You need to make it exciting. How do you make retail exciting? By introducing promotions, by improving your customer service, by increasing your range, by trying to identify those things. Actually, I think it's a very, very good idea as a business owner, and I do this regularly. And most of my business owners that come to my workshops know is that I like good retail. You know, when I see good retail, I get excited. And I look for these in every city I go to, you know, because often I work internationally. And one of the first things I'll do is I'll walk around the city and try and find retail stores that I like, that I walk in and think this is good retail, because then I use them as case studies in my workshops. And I encourage you to do the same, not to do workshops, but I encourage you to go into other stores, into other businesses, onto other websites that are different, that are unique, that are doing really good things, and try and identify what those things are. Because usually businesses that have a value proposition can charge more. I know that's how we justify it. You know, we charge more for our services than most of our competitors. And the reason we can do that is we've got this value proposition that differentiates us from our competitors. And you've got to focus on that when you speaking or selling your product. The next thing you want to think about is your target customers. And again, there's so many different ways of doing this. You know, one of the things that we should all do as business owners when we get to the end of the year, either a calendar year or financial year, is analyze who bought from us last year. You know, so really look at your analytics. Who bought from us last year? How much did they spend? Which part of the city are they from? What industry are they from? All those type of things. Because the more you understand that, the better it is for you. Because you may decide as a business owner to keep going after that customer, or maybe to find new customers. I couldn't think of a better word. Anyway, but to go and look for different customers out there. But sometimes you just keep doing that thing. But once you can identify, in my case, for example, our customers are mainly cities. So I work with cities or programs like this, My Main Street, that want to create learning content. They'll come to us and say, can you create, this is our budget, can you create this for us? That's what they do. An example last week, one of my clients came to me and said, listen, we're running this program for summer company kids, and how to identify a business idea. Can you create something like that? Okay, so those are my target customers that come to me with small business projects to train business people. So I'm very, very clear on who my target market is. And you need to be clear on who your target market is. Sometimes it's demographic, sometimes it's age related. You'll hear people saying our average customer is 18 to 25 or 25 to 34. The problem I've got sometimes is I am not sure if these people have actually analyzed this data or they're just guessing by seeing who comes into their stores. So just be very, very careful. Understanding who your customer is, who your target customer is, can be really beneficial, especially when it comes to marketing. You know, if you're going to be doing any campaigns, if you're going to do any promotions, if you're going to do any joint ventures, if you're going to do any partnerships, if you're going to do any of those things, understanding who your customer is really helps you. Or could be influenced by psychographics, you know, what motivates these people's buying decisions. You know, these are the type of things you want to be thinking about, and depending on the nature of your business, but every single one of us on this webinar has customers that are buying from us. They have a profile. We need to know what their profile is. And once we identify the most profitable profile or target customers, then we want to go after more of those people. That's one of our strategies to increase our profit margins sooner than just going after anybody that buys products and services like us. So the top section is really important. Identifying opportunities, coming up with products or services to satisfy those opportunities, being very, very clear on what your value proposition is, and knowing who your target customers. The next thing I think is something that a lot of us don't do. I mean, I was saying the other day, and I think this is so true, is that if I'm running a seminar on analyzing financial statements, I'll get so many people attending. If I run a seminar on how to use social media to get more likes, I'll get much more people attending. Now, for me as a business owner, actually, the financials is far more important than getting more likes on social media. And we got to be very, very careful of that, is that as business owners, we tend to, I don't know, we want to come up with simple solutions. We want to come up with easy routes to getting customers into a store. And here's the rule I've learned. There is no easy way. There's really no easy way to get customers into your store. So what you got to do is you got to create a plan of a whole lot of tools that can be very effective. So it's not just doing one thing, it's doing a bunch of things. It's maybe doing a bit of social media. It's maybe running a promotion in store. It's maybe doing partnerships with locals. It's maybe creating a email newsletter. But a combination of all those things are what contributes to the success of your business. So, you know, just, for example, spending most of your time on social media and getting all these likes may not be the solution to your marketing going forward. And this is why it concerns me sometimes as a trainer of business owners that people are so obsessed with using social. Social is just another marketing tool. It's not bad, whatever, it's just another marketing tool. And that's the way you got to think about that. So you almost have to have a combination of tools that'll help you get customers into your store. And when I say store, doesn't matter if you don't have a store, but into your business, basically to buy your stuff. And that's the way I want you to think about it. So you got to think about this. What are the effective ways? And remember, one way is not enough. You can't just say, well, I'm only going to do this. I'm only going to do it. It's a combination of things that make you a success. So firstly, you may decide, for example, I'm going to run promotions in store. From now on, every single week, I'm going to run a promotion. And I think that's a really good strategy, because as soon as somebody sees that word promotion, some of them get excited. I know I do that. I do that all the time. I will get attracted by that word promotion. That doesn't mean I always buy, but the fact that a business has a promotion on a weekly basis is really important for me, especially if you're in retail. So that's the first thing. The second thing, you need to understand that promotion doesn't mean discount. I had a very good example that I've used a few times that I sometimes forget about, but I like going to morning markets. I really like going to markets where you buy fresh strawberries and you buy fresh fruit and vegetables and things like it from the local farmers. And the one day I went to the market, I'm going to think of the name now, but it doesn't matter. I went to the market, and it has an internal market or in the building, and it has an external one. And there were a whole lot of people in the lineup, older people, like people in retired people. And there were these two young people on boxes shouting strawberries 3 for $10. They were screaming strawberries 3 for $10. And I just saw this this crowd of older people standing in line to buy strawberries for three for $10. Here's the thing. I'm yet to tell you that those strawberries were not discounted. How do I know? Because in the market inside, they were also 3 for $10. So that was the market price. It wasn't like they were cheaper, but the fact that they stood on boxes and shouted strawberries for 3 for $10 was the reason they got more sales. And this is sometimes what you need to do as a business owner, is maybe not stand on boxes and shout, but you've got to make it known that you have a special product in your store. Doesn't matter what you are selling, whether you're selling training programs like me or selling to cities or whatever it is, you've got to stand on a box and tell people that they need to buy your stuff. And that sometimes is a simple promotions. And you've got to understand this, is as a business owner, you've got to get well known. People have got to know about you. And sometimes you have to do different things to do it. And I think sometimes even as business owners, you almost have to have the split personality. There's one personality when we're out marketing and this other personality that we have at home, because people have got to know about you. You know, and you can do advertising. For example, you can do some Facebook advertising and Google advertising, or advertising in your local newspapers. But here's the thing, you want to know if that's working. You don't want to advertise for the sake of advertising. So whatever you do, you want to be measuring. If you're going to be doing Facebook advertising, you want to measure the effectiveness of that. If you're doing flyers, you want to be measuring the effectiveness. All of these things are really important. For other businesses, it's sometimes just updating your personal selling. I had an example now. I was in Lisbon with my son, and he bought a very expensive bicycle. And it was really interesting, was the guy that was selling it. You know, he was empathetic, he was all of those type of things. And my son bought a very expensive bicycle. And sometimes in business, depending on what you sell, you don't even need to spend more money on marketing. You don't even need to spend more money on advertising. It's just those customers that come into your store need to buy stuff. And there's nothing more frustrating for me as a retailer. When I was a retailer, people that came into our store and didn't buy stuff. So I'm thinking they want to buy stuff. They came into my store and we didn't sell them stuff. The other thing you want to do is you want to do regular promotions. And I mentioned this twice now, but it's so important for me that business owners do regular promotions. And the last one, which I think a lot of business owners don't do, is get free publicity. You know, you want to do things that create interest in your community. You want people to notice you. And if they notice you, they will start buying your stuff. So as a retailer, and it's interesting because I really love retail, but I see so much bad retail, so much boring retail, so much retail that I think if you just did a few things differently, you could make money. And I want you to understand the importance of that. So you've got to strategically decide. You've got to say, you know what, I'm going to improve. I am going to generate more revenue. And the way I'm going to generate more revenue and get more customers into my store is this is what I'm going to do. And all of us need to think about that, whether we're selling products, whether we're selling services, whether we're selling a combination of products or services, where we got e-commerce, non-e-commerce, doesn't matter what we are selling, we've got to understand that. So do you see how this falls together? Is you thinking about the different parts of your business and you solving those problems that you potentially have. One of them could be lack of revenue. The next thing you've got to understand as a business owner is the numbers part. And I know that a lot of business owners try and avoid this section of their business. You cannot avoid this section of your business. This is a really important part of your plan, because if you're selling products and not making margins, you're basically screwed. Really, you are screwed. And I've seen this many, many times over the years. People are excited about their revenues, excited, we made so much revenue last month. And I'm the reverse. I'm obsessed with profit margin. I like sales. It's good for the ego. But I'm obsessed with the profit margin. It doesn't matter what business what product or service you're selling. If you're selling products, you need to know exactly what your profit margin is. If you're selling service, you need to know what your margins are. And if you don't, you've got a problem, because you could be selling stuff and not generating revenue. So what are the things that we need to know? Every one of us in our plan need to know what our monthly fixed expenses are. Why? Because they've changed. They've changed. With the interest rates going up, with some of your rents going up, or maybe even down by some divine intervention. But all of these things have influence on your fixed expenses. I know we adjusted our fixed expenses in December because I expected us to go through a bit of a quiet first quarter, and I adjusted our expenses and analyzed all of them because I think it's important. It doesn't matter that I've been in business for 20 years and I think I know what I'm doing. I've still got to adjust accordingly. And it's a really important thing, even with your employees, for them to understand that every single time we spend money, the business makes less profit. And it's getting that mentality or that understanding that if the business doesn't make profit, they can't get paid, is a really important thing. What is your gross profit percentage? Every single one of you on this webinar need to know what your gross profit percentage is. Whether you're running a product or service, a combination of product or service, you need to know what it is. You've got financials from last year. This is for those of you that end on the calendar year. You ended on the 31st of December. It's 6 weeks later. You should know what revenue you generated last year. You should know what your cost of sales were and what your profit margins are. And if you don't, you have a problem. Because if you're selling and you're not making a profit, that is an absolute waste of time. And I think it's really, really important that you understand that. Okay, so a bunch of you have asked me about this template, and I've answered this question a few times, so I'll answer it at the end of the webinar again. So what is your gross profit percentage? What is your break even? Every one of you on this webinar need to know what your break even is for your overall business, which is very easy to calculate because you got financials from last year. And then I would even go as far as departmentalize it. So departmentalize your business, have different sections or categories or units, if you want to call it. Some people use that fancy word, business units. I don't care what it is, but you want to make sure that every section of your business, every product, every service in your business is generating a profit. Otherwise, what could you do is maybe discontinue that product. So for example, I'll give you a big company example, which I don't like, but they're easier to understand. Amazon was recently opening Amazon Go stores. Some of you maybe have seen them, and now they've decided that's not a good way to go. And you know what? They should have asked me. I would have told them, any business that starts going into the grocery business makes me very nervous, because it's a very, very unique industry with very low profit margins. And if you're making very high margins and all of a sudden you've got these low margins, you've got to be very careful of it. And as a business owner, you need to understand that sometimes just introducing products that increase your revenue is not the answer. What you want to try and identify is bring in products that increase your revenue, but maintain your profit margins. If your profit margins come down, you need to justify the revenue numbers to get that. So these are things that we need to plan for every year. They're not like you start your business, you plan for them and you can ignore them. These things are dynamic. They're changing all the time. So what is your break even for your business department? What new assets and technology do you need to purchase? I mean, that's such an important question. Is if I'm growing my business, maybe I need new computers for my business. Maybe I need new projectors. Maybe I need whatever. Maybe I need new shelving. Maybe I need new technology, whatever it is. But these are conscious decisions that you make as a business owner. You don't want to make them on the fly. Why? Because that has a major impact on your cash flow. So you've got to think about these things. And I don't want you to think like a big company, but that's what they do. They set budgets at the beginning of the year, and they say, well, this year we're going to replace the trucks, or this year we're going to replace the refrigerator, or this year we're going to buy a new cooler. And you want to think about these things and plan for them in advance. Your cash flow, I know that if you want to succeed in business, you have to create a cash flow forecast. And some of you haven't done it already. And I'm thinking, why not? And usually it's just, I don't know, you don't have a template, or you don't have a plan, or you don't have a whatever. Just get it and do it, and then calculate what your customer acquisition costs. All of these things are very, very important. And I think every one of these questions, or every one of these points that I have here, you need to know the answer to. Why? It's going to make you a better business owner. And these are things that are key. The other thing you want to focus on in your business are systems and processes. And maybe that's one of your strategies for the new year. Let me work on different processes, new technology, new ways of doing things. And if you read regularly, Tesla's just done that. They've now introduced new robots that make them more efficient. And that's why they could reduce the prices of their new Teslas without reducing the margins. Again, it's putting things in place. And as a small business owner, you want to think about this too. Are there things that I can do? Are there systems? Are there processes? Are there ways or things that I can do that can improve? Your employee training and motivation. I mean, that could be a key challenge for you in 2023. I've been reading a lot of articles about small business owners that are trying to find people to work and then can't keep them, or whatever it is. And the problem is really one that you can solve. Because if you train these people, inspire, motivate them, they'll stay longer with you. Any technology requirements, any software, any e-commerce, all of those things you need to think about. So this year is not the only questions you need to answer, but I think there's quite a lot here. There's quite a lot here that even if this is a starting point for you, this is a nice plan. It's very, very simple, and it's very, very effective. When it comes to your marketing, so in that business plan, you saw that I had a section under marketing. If you want to know what the specifics are, the first thing you want to do is you want to start off with your marketing goals. What are my marketing goals over the next 12 months? Then what you want to do is you want to create a marketing calendar. And the reason you want to create a marketing calendar is because it keeps you focused and on track. So you might create something on a spreadsheet or a Word document saying, okay, so January, we did the winter promotion. February, we've just done the Valentine's promotion for the month. March, we're going to do, I don't know, what is March? Spring promotion, whatever. April, we're going to do Easter promotion. But you want to think about every single month and start planning in advance. Otherwise, what we're doing as business owners is we're doing things on the fly. We're winging it as we go along, which to me is a big problem. The other thing we need to do, which is really important, and I see a lot of business owners not doing it, is allocate a budget for marketing. Because what they're doing is sometimes they're spending money on marketing, and other times they're not spending money on marketing. Sometimes they're measuring the effectiveness of their marketing, and sometimes they're not measuring the effectiveness of your marketing. So what you want to do is you want to be consistent. I would rather you do 1,000 pamphlets 10 times than do 10,000 pamphlets one time. And I see this a lot of times. Business owners will launch and it's all this fanfare. They've got balloons, they've got action, whatever it is, and then they stop. That's not the way a marketing works. Marketing works when you repeat it over and over again. And this is why having a marketing calendar is a really good idea. And allocating money, if you've got it, or time, if you don't have money, is really, really important. But the last point on the slide is key. If you are not measuring the effectiveness of your marketing, you are wasting money, or you could be wasting money, because you don't know what is working. And that, for me, is a big problem, because as a small business owner, you don't have money. So you got to think about every single expense and justify it. And in times like this, it even makes it more important. Is inflation going to come down? Well, I don't know the answer to that question. Are the interest rates going to come down? No, I don't know the answer to that question. So I'm going to operate my business as though these things are going to stay high. And I'm not going to regret my decision, because the economy will always come back like it always does. And then when it's ready for growth, then I'm going to be really, really profitable. But in the meantime, I've created really good habits. I've created really good routines, really good systems in my business, and that helps me grow. So marketing is really, really important. And I think these points on the slide can be really helpful. Maybe you can create a little template like this, with everything that you're going to be doing. What am I going to do month 1, month 2, month 3? How much am I going to spend? And then it gives you on track. It also shows your employees that you organize, because I find that many, many times you go into retail, small business, and you can just see there's no plan yet. It's just, let's see what's going to happen, and we'll see if we win or lose. That's a program, actually. Also, you've got the My Main Street program, and then you've got another program called Digital Main Street. For those of you that are small business owners in Ontario, that you should check out. This is the one specifically for Chatham-Kent, but it's right across the province. Then the numbers, I mentioned earlier on the importance of knowing what your monthly fixed expenses are. And I'm here to tell you that your fixed expenses have changed. There's no doubt in my mind they've changed, because mine have changed. And sometimes it's little subtle numbers. Something's gone up 5% or 10% or $5 or $10, and we tend to ignore those things. And I don't want you to ignore those things. I want you to be very, very specific and precise when it comes to your monthly fixed expenses. So that's the first thing I want you to do. The second thing I want you to do is to audit your expenses. Go through every single expense you're incurring in your business and see if you can save money there. And I think it's really good to do that regularly, watch every single dollar. And you're never going to regret this. The most successful business owners that I work with are often very frugal people. I see this, and it doesn't change, because that's how they survived in the beginning. They survived in the beginning because they were frugal. And if you want to remain a profitable business, you've got to learn to be frugal, because you'll realize very, very quickly when it comes to employees, it's not their money. Really, it's not their money. So if they spend an extra $10 or $20 or $100, it has no impact on their salary. So they will spend it. But if you create the discipline and educate them, create budgets for them, all of these things are really important. Your gross profit margin. What is your gross profit target for this year? Have you decided what your gross profit is? And if you've decided, I think that's brilliant. If you haven't, that is a problem. I've got a problem with that, because you're hoping by some divine intervention, by the end of the year, you're going to get the profit margin that'll make you a profit. Analyzing financial statements is stressful. Let me say that to you. It's stressful. And what happens, because it's stressful, sometimes we try and avoid it, but that's not the solution. You want to make sure that you know what's going on in your business. Know what your break even is. How do you calculate your break even? If you're a retail business, you take your fixed expenses, you divide by your profit margin, and that'll give you a break even. I would even go as far as calculating your break even number of units if you can. Okay. If you're not the best person with financials, what you do is speak to your accountant. They will help you do this. If you're in a service business, you can do the same thing. You take your fixed expenses, you divide it by how much you charge for your service, and this will give you a break even. Knowing that number is really helpful, because their numbers changed. It's changed from last year to this year, I know for a fact, and you need to know what that is. What new assets and technology do you need to grow for your business? So in the plan template the business plan template that I showed you, there was an important point, but here's the key. Now you need to decide what's worth spending money on, how you're going to finance that. All of those things are things that you need to think about as a business owner, because those have a direct impact on your cash flow. One of the biggest challenges and one of the main causes of failure in small business is cash flow. Just so you know, that is one of the key reasons that small businesses fail is cash flow. So as a business owner, you want to know this. You want to make sure that your inventory levels are right. You want to make sure that your accounts receivable, that people are paying you on time. You want to make sure that you've got more cash flowing into your business rather than flowing out of your business. And you want to know that if you need to raise money, you need to know the number. So the only way you can do that is by creating a cash flow forecast. So when people say to me, I haven't done it yet, I get really concerned, because that's the way you survive in business, is by managing that cash flow. So profit margins are really important, but cash flow is just as important. So you've got to understand that these figures you can't ignore. You can't say, wow, somebody else is looking after them. I use this template that is very, very simple. Some of you will say, and that's the way I like it. I like using very simple templates and keeping all the information on one page, and then I can do it. I use it in my retail business. I use it in my current business. I use the same template with a couple of just a little bit of adjustments. Here's a break even. You take all your fixed expenses, you divide by your gross margin, and that'll give you your break even. But you need to know what that number is. And also what you need to know is any expenses that change will have an impact on your break even. If they go up, your break even will go up. If they go down, your break even will go down. When it comes to your gross margin, it has the same impact. If your gross profit margin goes up, your break even comes down. If your gross profit margin comes down, your break even goes up. What does that mean in very simple English? Is that you need to sell more to make the same profit. And you need to understand that. That is the key to building a successful business. Can you move left, please? I don't know why I'm going to move left. Do you want me to show you this on the screen? Okay. So these are all expenses. They would be, Michelle, they would be different for you than they would be for me. Okay. So understand, it really depends on the nature of your business, what your expenses are going to be. I've just put in some categories here for reference, but your business will probably be different. Okay. So those are the expenses. And remember, none of this is the same for every business. My cash flow will be different to your cash flow. Maybe your template will even be different. My break even will probably be different to your break even. And the template might be different. These are just guidelines of what I use for my business on an ongoing basis. The other thing that I think is really, really important, the planning, creating a business vision is really key. And then the planning part is very, very important. You can't get away from that. But the other thing I think that we really need now as business owners is finding people that you can hang out with. And I encourage you to find people that you can hang out with that are business owners. So one of the things that I've been doing the last couple of years, actually my whole business life, not the last couple of years, since I started my business, I've always spent time with other business owners. And I think this is very, very beneficial, because I think running a business is very, very difficult, firstly. Secondly, the problem that often the people around you are not always business owners, So what you want to try and do is you want to identify business owners that can just relate to what you're going through. So you can discuss things. You can say to them, you know what? We're coming at a profit margins of 23%. What do you think? Is that good? Is that bad? It doesn't mean they're going to know, but they'll give you an opinion. And that is exactly what you need. And I find that the most successful business owners that I've worked with over the years are people that have mentors, advisors that they go to. And many times I've spoken to these people because I've been in part of all these groups, and they'll say things like, you taught me how to calculate gross profit margin, or you taught me the importance of break even, or you taught me whatever it is. And it's really interesting that when you spend time with other business owners, is that you share knowledge, you share experience, you share insecurities, you share all of those things. And that is a really important part of your learning. And I want you to understand that. If you want to become a better business owner, if that's one of your decisions, you want to become a better business owner, I would spend time with other business owners, because even your planning process, speaking about your value proposition, or speaking about your marketing plan, or speaking about new opportunities, you can run it by them. So that's the first thing. The second thing, make sure that the people you spend time with want you to succeed. I think that's really, really important, is that the people you spend time with want you to succeed. I had a meeting last week, Friday, with somebody, and she's one of these people that for every solution, she's got a problem. I'll say, you know what, I think you should start your own business. Then she'll say to me, oh, but the legal stuff is so complicated. She always puts challenges in the way. And people like that are very, very challenging to work with. So I want you to find other business owners that are motivated, that are inspired, that you can spend time with. And if you can't physically, ideally you want to do it, one-on-one. But if you can't do it physically, create online groups. Because I promise you, for some of you on this webinar, it's going to change your life. Because then you've got somebody that can give you feedback, that can give you their opinion, that can give you, and most business owners are very opinionated, even about things that they don't know. And so I've always spent a lot of time with business owners because they also inspire me and motivate me. But one of the things I've been doing recently with a specific business owner is walking in the morning. So he'll message me and he'll say to me, Andrew, I'm walking tomorrow morning. And he starts walking in the dark, which is a bit stressful for me. But anyway, but we start walking in the dark, and we walk for 90 minutes. And it's really interesting that obviously we're both entrepreneurs, which really helps. And more importantly is how we inspire each other. And I think that is the key. And you need to understand this, is that the key here is to spend time with people that inspire and motivate you. Please don't share emails in the webinar chat, okay? It's not a good idea. The second thing is you want to find yourself an accountant. You want to find yourself an accountant that you understand. I think this is so important. I know I had this situation, maybe some of you have heard the story before, and if you haven't, I'm going to repeat it, is when my accountant retired. My accountant retired, and I needed to find a new accountant. And I went through a process. I met a bunch of accountants. I don't want to say I interviewed them, but I spoke to them, asked them a bunch of questions. And then the one that I felt most comfortable with, what I chose. And I'm here to tell you that I'm not sure I chose the best one, but I chose the best one for me, which is really key. And the way I the way I work with him now is whenever I've got a decision to make, whatever I'm going to be doing, I'll message him. I'll phone him, I'll message him, and I say, Angelo, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Angelo, how much salary should I take out of the business? Angelo, how much dividends should I take? So he's almost like my advisor. I don't assume he knows everything. I never assume he knows everything, because I've realized doing this for as many years as I am, nobody knows everything. Not me, not any other consultant, any webinar presenter, seminar presenter knows everything. So you want to get somebody that you can run things by. I heard about this. Business owners will come to me with some of the most random comments that they heard in a pub, or a friend of theirs told them, and whatever it is, and you want to run that by an expert. Every now and then, business owners say to me they do not have an accountant. I'm going to recommend that you create this business plan I've spoken about, and you find yourself an accountant immediately. You should not be running a business without an accountant, because there's so many different things that change. You've got payroll taxes, you've got income taxes, you've got financial statements that need to be produced every year. And, that's not your strength. Your strength is selling stuff. And that's what you got to do. Sell your product or your service. The next person you need is a banker. And I think this is so, so important, is to find somebody at your local bank that you can go and speak to. And most banks will have small business expert. And here's the thing. I work with a bunch of the banks, and I'm not going to say to you that I would give any of the banks that I work with a 5-star review. But what I do is when I have a problem, I know this banker, and I ask him how to deal with the situation, because he's in the system. Does he always give me advice that I'm happy with? Absolutely not. But I think the advantage you have is if you have somebody in the banking system that you can go and speak to, they can advise you in the right or the wrong direction. They can say, don't do that, do this, or don't do that. Don't try and apply for that loan, rather apply for this loan, or whatever it is. So I think it's very good to have somebody like that. The other person you may need, again, it depends on your risk tolerance and things like that. I don't regularly use lawyers. My brother in business, for example, has lawyers on staff. That's how important they are for him. But it really depends on you. But a lawyer is really important in certain circumstances. For example, before you sign any lease agreements, you should have a lawyer. If you've got employees, you may decide, depending on the size of your business, you may decide to have contracts of employment for your employees. These are the reasons you need a lawyer. So I would try and identify somebody that is small business friendly, that charges a decent rate, that you can approach when you're stuck. The other big opportunities that we have in Canada and in the US is we have these small business centers. Every city just about has a small business center, run usually by the Economic Development Department, and they're there to give you local information. They're there to give you statistics about what's happening in the area. They're there to guide you, advise you, tell you what programs they are, and I think they can be a really useful resource. Do I think they're all brilliant? Absolutely not, but there's some gems. There are some people that work in these centers that are absolutely brilliant. So I'd go and check them out. And then the last thing, I think it's really important part of your planning for your business is to find a bunch of business owners that you can meet with regularly. I'll give you what happened to me is about 20 few years ago. I used to meet with a group of about 7 or 8 business owners every 2 weeks. And I found it really, really useful. And the reason was we'd meet and we'd come up with a problem. And then we'd all have our input. And that's a big, big opportunity for you, because then you're getting different people's opinions. You know, you're not getting one person's opinion, you're getting different people's opinions. And I ran these groups for years. And I've tried to launch some since then. But the challenge is I have my own mastermind groups, and I've tried to encourage other people to launch them. And I find that often what happens is 2 or 3 people are interested. And if you don't have somebody that's a leader, these groups fall apart. But if you can create it, I think it could change your life. I really believe that. And I've said this to many business owners over the years. And finally, most importantly, is I want you to understand that you can have the best vision for your business in the world. You can have the best business plan in the world. But the key thing is the thing that I said earlier on that I think is so, so important in business is that you never want to give up. If you believe in your business idea, if you believe in your business model, I encourage you to keep persevering. But this is up to you. I mean, you can blame the whole world, you can blame the economy, you can even blame your upbringing for why you're not a successful business owner. But every single successful business owner that I've met are usually people that are stubborn, hard-headed, and just keep going at it. And I want you to tell you that it's very rewarding, very, very rewarding when you get to a stage in your life where you can look back and focus on some of the successes and some of the failures that you had and how you learned from this. But here's basically the business planning template. Remember, you don't have to use mine. You can use, there's lots of them out there. A business model canvas, a regular business plan templates, a lean canvas. There's so many of these different things. But I think the basics are the same. As a business owner, you want to identify opportunities for growth. That's the first thing you want to do. The second thing, you want to identify products and services that satisfy that need, that problem, that opportunity. You want to always be very, very clear on what your value proposition is. I think it's very, very important that you and I, as business owners, are honest with ourselves and say, you know what we're doing is just ordinary. We need to make it unique. We need to make it different. We need to make it special. And you've got to try and identify that. As a business owner, you've got to try and identify that. Because if you don't have something that differentiates you, what happens is you can only compete on price. And you don't want to be competing on price. That's not the business you want to be in. The fourth thing you want to think about is, who are these people we're going to sell our products to? And there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can analyze your invoices for the last year, look at your Z readings, whatever analytics you have, your website analytics, your social media analytics, whatever, trying to identify the customers that are the most profitable for you. Let me say that again, the customers that are the most profitable for you, and you want to focus on those. But if you don't know who your target market is, if you don't know who your most profitable customer is, you're gonna still generate sales, but they're not going to be as profitable. And you want to get the right person into your store. They're low-hanging fruit, we call them in marketing. People that are ready to buy your product or service and realize the value that you offer. I showed you a simple marketing plan, and I encourage all of you to do that. Just create something for yourself, even if it's just on a Word document, on a whiteboard, and be very, very clear on the different events that you have during the year and how you're going to promote your business in these events. And run a promotion every single week, not every now and then when we have time. Run a promotion every single week. Make sure you're very clear on your numbers. There's not too many numbers you need to know. You need to know what your gross profit percentage is. You need to know what your break even is. You need to have a very clear cash flow forecast, because you are in business to make a profit. Never forget that. Some of us get lost along the way. We sell things at a discount, or we focus on volumes and all that type of stuff. Those things are very good for a very temporary period of time, but really at the end of the day, you are in business to make a profit. And every now and then I get asked questions about not-for-profit. I don't understand it. I really don't understand. Every business that I operate, my focus is on making profit. Do I always make profit in the beginning? No, but that is my ultimate goal, is to generate profit. And I must never forget that. That's how I pay my mortgage. That's how I pay my employees. That's one day when I stop working, I will enjoy the fruits of my labor. The other thing we've got to focus on, which is really, really important, especially when we try and improve our productivity in our business, is focus on people. We need to train them. We need to recruit the right people. We need to encourage them. These things are very, very important. We need to put in processes in our business that make running our business more effectively, and we need to use technology. I think one of the biggest opportunities in 2023 is some of the very effective, simple, affordable technology software that we can use. I know I've been in business long enough to know how expensive it used to be to test something, or to try something, or to launch something. And nowadays, it's so much easier because of some of the technology we've got. All right, let's see, there's a question here for the templates. Okay, you can ask Chris for the templates if you want them. And otherwise, you can just send me an email. I don't like sharing my email on the internet, but let me just share them to you. If you send me an email, I'll send you the business planning template, okay? I'll send you that template, but you got to send me an email. If you don't send me an email, I won't know. Remember, the recording of this webinar is on the My Main Street website, so you can watch it again. Christopher will load it, and then you can see it again. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me this morning. Hopefully you learned one or two things from me. Use this information, build a very successful business, and I'll be very happy. You have the tools. These are the tools that you need to build a successful business. Start working on it now. There's nothing more complicated. This is what you need. Thank you very much, everyone, and I'll see you on Thursday. Same time, no, 2 o'clock on Thursday. Today was a little bit early because I had something else on, but see you on Thursday. Have a great day, and I'll see you on Thursday. Thank you very much, everyone.